Is Ontario's housing dream becoming a financial nightmare? Across Canada's economic powerhouse, cities that welcome families with open arms are now watching property values plummet, inventory skyrocket, and homeowners flee as mortgage payments become impossible to sustain. Could your neighborhood be next? From former boom towns to commuter havens, these 10 cities are flashing the same warning signs we saw before major housing crashes, only this time it might hit harder. Which communities are watching decades of equity vanish and entire neighborhoods empty out? We're diving into 10 Ontario cities quietly turning into ghost towns in 2025's unfolding housing crisis, starting with a northern city where the bottom has already fallen out. Thunder Bay. Thunder Bay was once the gateway to Canada's resource wealth, where good-paying jobs at grain terminals and forestry operations made homeownership a realistic goal for working families. But in 2025, this northwestern Ontario city is experiencing a housing market freefall that's turning entire neighborhoods into modern ghost towns. The numbers tell a brutal story. Home prices have crashed from $267,000 in 2022 to just $198,000 today. That's a devastating 26% drop in just 3 years, wiping out decades of equity for thousands of homeowners who thought they were building wealth for retirement. What's driving this collapse? The youth exodus is accelerating at an alarming rate. Thunder Bay has lost 18% of its working-age population since 2022, as young professionals and skilled trades workers pack up and leave for opportunities in southern Ontario or Western Canada. When the people who should be buying homes are fleeing instead, demand craters. Major employers are downsizing or shutting down entirely. The forestry sector, once the backbone of the local economy, has shed over 3,000 jobs in the past 2 years alone. Grain handling operations have been consolidated, eliminating hundreds more positions. Drive through neighborhoods near the industrial core, and you'll see the impact firsthand. Houses with overgrown lawns, boarded windows, and for sale signs that have been there for months. The average days on market tells the real story of buyer confidence. In 2022, homes sold in 45 days. Now, properties are sitting for 130 days or more, and many sellers are slashing prices just to attract a single showing. Some homes are being listed below what owners paid in 2019, before the pandemic boom even started. While Thunder Bay battles resource sector decline, southern Ontario cities face different but equally devastating challenges. Windsor. Windsor should have been insulated from housing market chaos. After all, this border city has been Canada's automotive capital for over a century, with steady manufacturing jobs and affordable living costs that made it a magnet for working families. But in 2025, Windsor is discovering that proximity to Detroit can be a double-edged sword. The housing market has taken a devastating hit. Median home prices have plummeted 22% from $425,000 to just $331,000. That's nearly a $100,000 loss for homeowners who bought during the pandemic boom, and many are now underwater on their mortgages. The root cause? Auto plant closures are reshaping the entire regional economy. Over 15,000 direct and indirect jobs have been eliminated or relocated since 2023, as manufacturers consolidate operations and shift production to lower-cost facilities. When that many paychecks disappear from a metro area of just 300,000 people, the ripple effects are immediate and brutal. Currency fluctuations are making things worse by creating an unexpected brain drain. With the Canadian dollar hovering near 75 cents US, skilled trades workers and engineers are finding Detroit's job market increasingly attractive. Why earn 60,000 Canadian when you can make 70,000 US just 20 minutes across the Ambassador Bridge? The result is an exodus of exactly the demographic that should be buying homes. The rental market tells an even grimmer story. Vacancy rates have spiked to 18% as young professionals leave and new graduates skip Windsor entirely. Landlords are offering 2 months free rent and slashing prices, but even those incentives aren't filling units. When landlords can't find tenants, property investors lose confidence and start dumping their holdings. From manufacturing struggles in Windsor, we move to a city where tech promises couldn't save the housing market. Sudbury. Sudbury's technology sector was supposed to diversify the economy beyond mining, with research initiatives and startup incubators promising a more stable future. But when commodity prices crashed in 2024, those tech dreams couldn't cushion the blow to a housing market that's now in complete freefall. The inventory explosion tells the whole story. Housing listings have increased 340% year over year as panicked homeowners rush to sell before values drop further. Drive through any neighborhood and you'll see the evidence. Street after street lined with for sale signs, many offering desperate incentives like cash, back or free utilities just to attract buyers. Nickel prices have collapsed from their 2022 highs, devastating a local economy where 40% of employment depends directly or indirectly on mining operations. Vail and Glencore have announced major layoffs totaling over 4,000 positions, and smaller mining service companies are shutting down entirely. When nearly half your workforce faces unemployment, housing demand evaporates overnight. But it's not just job losses hammering the market. Property insurance costs have tripled in many areas as climate change increases wildfire and extreme weather risks. Homeowners who once paid $1,500 annually are now facing bills of $4,500 or more. For families already stretched thin by job uncertainty, those insurance spikes are pushing ownership costs beyond reach. The rental market is collapsing too. University enrollment at Laurentian has dropped 25% since the institution's financial crisis, eliminating thousands of potential tenants. Student housing complexes that were fully occupied just 3 years ago now sit half empty, with landlords slashing rents and offering signing bonuses just to fill units. While Sudbury grapples with resource sector instability, other cities are discovering that proximity to Toronto isn't the advantage it once was. Barrie. Barrie was the golden child of Ontario's commuter belt, where families could afford spacious homes and still reach downtown Toronto in 90 minutes by train. The pandemic work-from-home boom made it even more attractive as buyers fled expensive city condos for suburban space. But now that remote work has permanently changed office culture, Barrie's entire economic foundation is crumbling. The housing crash here is staggering. Home prices peaked at $847,000 in early 2022, but have plummeted to $679,000 today. That's a $168,000 loss, or nearly 20%, in less than 3 years. For families who stretch their budgets to buy at the peak, it's a financial disaster. The commuter exodus tells the real story. GO train ridership from Barrie to Toronto has collapsed 45% since 2022, as hybrid work schedules make daily commuting unnecessary. Why pay for a monthly transit pass and spend 3 hours a day traveling when you only need to be in the office twice a week? Many former commuters are relocating closer to Toronto for those occasional office days, or moving even further out where housing costs less. New condo projects that seemed like sure bets just 2 years ago have been canceled mid-construction. Developers who planned hundreds of units targeting Toronto commuters are walking away from projects, leaving behind half-built towers and empty lots. The assumption that people would always choose Barrie for affordability while working in Toronto has proven catastrophically wrong. The local economy that grew around serving commuters is withering too. Coffee shops, gas stations, and restaurants near the GO station are struggling as foot traffic disappears. When the fundamental reason people move to your city no longer exists, the entire community suffers. Barrie's commuter crisis connects directly to similar problems plaguing other Toronto bedroom communities. Oshawa. Oshawa built its identity around being Motor City North, where generations of families earned middle-class livings building cars for General Motors. But unlike Barrie's commuter dependency, Oshawa's crisis stems from the collapse of manufacturing itself, creating a housing market disaster that's reshaping an entire community. The GM facility that once employed over 8,000 workers is eliminating 2,800 more jobs by the end of 2025 as the company consolidates production and shifts to electric vehicle manufacturing in other locations. For a city of 170,000 people, losing that many high-paying jobs creates an economic earthquake that ripples through every neighborhood. Housing values have cratered accordingly. The median home price has dropped 28% from its peak of $756,000 to just $544,000 today. That's a devastating $212,000 loss for homeowners who thought auto sector jobs provided stability. Many families are now trapped in homes worth less than what they owe. The demographic shift makes recovery even harder. Oshawa's population is aging rapidly as young workers leave for opportunities elsewhere and retirees stay put. The median age has increased from 39 to 44 in just 3 years. When your potential homebuyers are fleeing and your existing residents are on fixed incomes, demand for housing collapses. Municipal services are being slashed as the tax base shrinks. The city has closed 2 recreation centers, reduced library hours, and delayed infrastructure repairs because property tax revenue can't keep pace with costs. When local governments start cutting services, it signals deeper structural problems that make communities less attractive to potential residents. From Oshawa's industrial decline, we turn to a city where tourism promises couldn't sustain inflated housing costs. North Bay. North Bay was supposed to be different from manufacturing-dependent cities because it built its economy around something more stable: government jobs. As a regional administrative center, it hosted provincial offices that provided steady employment for educated professionals. But in 2025, North Bay is learning that government work isn't as recession-proof as everyone believed. Provincial government office consolidations have eliminated 1,200 positions as Queen's Park centralizes operations in Toronto and Ottawa. These weren't just any jobs. They were the well-paying positions that sustained North Bay's middle class. Economists, policy analysts, and administrators who earn 70 to 90,000 annually are being offered transfers to Southern Ontario or severance packages. Most are choosing to leave. The population exodus is accelerating. North Bay has lost 8% of its residents since 2022, dropping from 53,000 to just under 49,000 people. That might not sound dramatic, but for a small city, losing 4,000 residents means empty schools, closed businesses, and a shrinking tax base that makes municipal services harder to maintain. Housing values are in freefall. The median home price has plummeted from $389,000 to $301,000, an $88,000 loss that's wiping out equity for homeowners across the city. Properties that once sold within weeks are now sitting for months, with desperate sellers offering furniture, appliances, and cash incentives just to attract offers. The downtown core tells the most visible story of decline. Main Street vacancy rates have reached 35% as restaurants, retail shops, and professional services close their doors. When that many storefronts are empty, it creates a psychological effect that makes the entire city feel like it's dying, deterring new residents and businesses from considering North Bay. North Bay's government job losses mirror the struggles we're seeing in cities that bet everything on one economic sector. Sault Ste. Marie. Sault Ste. Marie. Marie has weathered economic storms before by diversifying beyond any single employer. But in 2025, multiple crises are converging to create a perfect housing market disaster. Unlike cities dependent on one major factory or government office, the Sault's problems run deeper into the community's basic infrastructure and economic foundation. Algoma Steel's ongoing restructuring is eliminating over 2,000 jobs, affecting 15% of the local economy when you count suppliers, contractors, and service businesses that depend on steelworker paychecks. The company's shift toward electric arc furnace technology requires fewer workers, and those who remain face uncertain futures as global steel markets become increasingly competitive. Cross-border shopping patterns have fundamentally changed since the pandemic, devastating local retail businesses that once thrived on American visitors. Michigan residents who regularly crossed for shopping, dining, and entertainment have largely stopped coming, leaving downtown businesses struggling with revenue drops of 40 to 60%. When that much commercial activity disappears, it affects property values throughout the city. Property values have dropped 19% as homes now take an average of 156 days to sell, compared to just 45 days in 2021. That's more than 5 months on the market for a typical home, signaling that buyers are either scarce or extremely selective about pricing and condition. The infrastructure crisis makes everything worse. Water and sewer systems installed in the 1960s need massive upgrades requiring hundreds of millions in investment. With a shrinking tax base and aging population, the city faces impossible choices between maintaining basic services and keeping property taxes affordable. When potential buyers discover that municipal services might deteriorate or taxes might skyrocket, they look elsewhere. While Sault Ste. Marie battles industrial headwinds, some cities are discovering that natural beauty alone can't support a housing market. Elliott Lake. Elliott Lake was marketed as Canada's retirement paradise, where scenic beauty and affordable living would stretch pension dollars further than anywhere else in Ontario. The city actively courted retirees with promises of low costs and peaceful lakeside living after its uranium mining era ended. But those promises are crumbling as the retirement community model proves unsustainable. The retiree exodus is accelerating as healthcare access becomes increasingly problematic. The local hospital has reduced services, specialist visits require trips to Sudbury or Toronto, and wait times for basic medical care have tripled. For seniors on fixed incomes, traveling hundreds of kilometers for routine healthcare isn't just inconvenient. It's financially devastating and often impossible. Property taxes have skyrocketed 23% over just 2 years as the city struggles to maintain services for an aging population with a shrinking tax base. Retirees who moved here specifically for affordability are now facing tax bills that consume larger portions of their pensions each year. When property taxes rise faster than cost of living adjustments, fixed-income residents get squeezed out. Home prices are falling below construction costs in many neighborhoods. Properties that cost $200,000 to build in 2020 are now selling for $160,000 or less. New construction has completely stopped because builders can't make projects financially viable. When replacement costs exceed market values, it signals a market in complete collapse. Essential services are being reduced or eliminated entirely. The city has closed one fire station, reduced snow clearing schedules, and eliminated weekend public transit. Library hours have been cut, recreational programs canceled, and road maintenance deferred. For retirees who expected reliable municipal services, these cuts make daily life increasingly difficult and dangerous. Elliott Lake's retirement model collapse reflects broader demographic challenges affecting cities across northern Ontario. Timmins. Timmins represents the extreme end of resource dependency, where housing markets rise and fall with global commodity prices in cycles that can make or break entire communities overnight. Unlike other northern Ontario cities with diversified problems, Timmins lives and dies by gold prices, creating housing volatility that's destroying long-term community stability. The housing market swings here are absolutely brutal. In just 18 months, median home prices have crashed from $298,000 to $201,000. That's a $97,000 loss, or 33% in less than 2 years. No other housing market in Ontario has experienced that level of volatility, making homeownership feel more like gambling than investing. Gold price volatility is creating employment chaos that ripples through every neighborhood. When gold hit $2,400 per ounce in 2024, mines expanded rapidly and workers flocked to Timmins. But as prices dropped to $1,900, those same operations announced layoffs affecting over 3,000 workers. Families who moved here for mining jobs are now stuck with underwater mortgages and disappearing paychecks. Multiple mine closure announcements have shattered confidence in the local economy. Newmont and Kirkland Lake Gold have both scaled back operations, citing not just commodity prices, but rising operational costs due to climate change impacts. Extreme weather events, flooding, and infrastructure strain are making northern mining more expensive and less profitable each year. The boom-bust psychology is driving away anyone who can afford to leave. Why buy a house in a city where your property value can drop 30% in 18 months based on factors completely beyond local control? Young families and professionals are choosing more stable markets, leaving Timmins with an aging population and shrinking tax base. Timmins' resource dependency problems lead us to our final city, where multiple economic pressures are creating the perfect storm. Sarnia. Sarnia brings together every destructive force we've seen across Ontario into one devastating housing market collapse. Known as Chemical Valley, this border city has depended on petrochemical manufacturing for decades. But in 2025, environmental regulations, health concerns, and demographic flight are converging to create the province's most dramatic real estate disaster. The housing crash here is unprecedented. Home values have plummeted 31% from $412,000 to just $284,000. That's a staggering $128,000 loss that's wiped out equity for virtually every homeowner who bought in the past 5 years. Some properties are now selling for less than they cost in 2015. Petrochemical industry downsizing is eliminating thousands of jobs as environmental regulations force plant closures and relocations. Imperial Oil, Shell, and Suncor have all announced major reductions, with over 4,000 direct jobs disappearing since 2023. When your entire economy revolves around an industry facing existential regulatory pressure, the economic foundation crumbles fast. Air quality concerns are driving a family exodus that's accelerating housing market collapse. Parents with young children are leaving in droves, citing health fears about living near chemical plants and refineries. The under 40 demographic has declined 12% since 2022 as young families choose cleaner environments for raising children, even if it means taking financial losses on their homes. Aging infrastructure requires billions in upgrades that the shrinking tax base simply cannot support. Water treatment systems, roads, and sewers installed decades ago need complete replacement. But with property values crashing and population declining, the city faces impossible fiscal math. When basic municipal services become unaffordable, it accelerates the downward spiral. Sarnia represents the convergence of all factors destroying Ontario housing markets: industrial decline, environmental challenges, demographic shifts, and infrastructure decay, creating a cautionary tale for the entire province.